Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with Dwaine Hartman. Hi, Dwaine.
Hello. How are you?
I always don't know which hand to go because it splits the screen. So, you guys, I can't wait for you to meet Dwaine and find out how his work could help you. If you are on the path to learning how to be a more conscious being and to actually enjoy it and co-create with the universe on a really high level, then you want to see what Dwaine has to offer. So Dwaine, the first thing is, can you tell us a little bit about how this all happened, how you had access to all of this energy and
Some
knowledge?
people, some people say, that they awaken at a certain time. I was odd in that way. I was born awake. I literally came in awake. I was helping even my parents at a very young age. How to harmonize, how to be in a state of love, how to this sort of thing. But so I started right from the beginning, and then I had a period of time when I went to school that they were trying to convince me that I was not on the ball.
Well, you weren't the average bear.
No, it wasn't. And so I kind of, because perceptions influence us, I was a little bit thrown off by that, you know, going through the school system. But then once I got out, then I started, continuing on with my work at a very young age. I finally went in and got certified as a clinical hypnotherapist about more than 20 years ago now, and started working with hypnotherapy. And I studied I loved, Dr. Milton Erickson. I loved certain people that were getting high success rates, like Richard Bandler, um, these people. And so I really focused in on those high achievers and what they were doing, and figuring out a strategy or figuring out a thing that they were all doing that they probably didn't even know they were doing, right?
Right.
And so in that, I started to develop my own style in watching how each one of these people were working, but yet didn't know that they were even doing this process of going into a trance state and talking with their client, and the client would go into the trance state. It wasn't really about the words. It wasn't really about the focus wasn't on the trance. The focus was on helping people, right?
Right.
And this is what I find so much with even hypnotherapy today. A tremendous amount of the focus is on the trance and whether you can get a person into a trance. I say let it go. Just it happens naturally as you look at a person and you start to talk to a person. They automatically start going into that trance state. So I started to develop my own style in there, which takes away from all the effort on the what you would call the resistance to trance, and just let's get to work, right?
Right. Well, you do so much more than hypnotherapy. My knowing is that you're working at a core level with their soul. And
Yeah.
that when you're talking about trance, alchemy, and using alchemy, you're working at an energy level that is it's not painless, it's not spiritual bypassing, but it is right to the target through the
Right.
subconscious to go to the soul, correct?
The thing about a thing about my uncovering that was happening as I was going along is that I'm tremendously focused on the fact that I want people to have relief and come back to their own power.
Right.
And so this was an unfoldment as I was going along, learning what was really tricking people up, what was really getting people into what you would call this downward spiral, where it's about a defeat rather than coming up into a vibration of their true nature.
Right.
But a constant feedback or biofeedback thing loop about defeat, right?
Right.
And so I figured that out. If you just focus on what you love to do, you get better and better at it, and that's what I was doing in life. And so some people even say, well, how can how can people have such fast results? I mean, this isn't when you look at it from a consciousness, what I call the societal hypnosis.
Right.
It does take a long time because it's supposed to take a long time because we're never supposed to get there.
Darn it.
You can't run a slave planet and have people wake up.
Right. Well, we got to get out of that hologram.
So I started looking at what's going on here with this consciousness. And I found all the way back in the time of Zeus that there was a something happened to the human race at that time where Zeus was jealous of humans becoming equal to him. So he did something back then, was to split humans so that they had an agreeable, disagreeable consciousness, so that they had an enemy within, so that they would never reach the level of God consciousness like him, because he was jealous. So it was written that he put them into hypnosis and split them in two.
Okay.
And then they romanticized it, of course, and they said with this two, they were always in search of their other half, their twin.
Oh, so they made it sound like it was male, female instead of your whole self.
That's right.
Oh.
I work with it every day. I see the two consciousnesses right there. There's the societal consciousness, and there is this God consciousness that's dormant. Right? So even in my hypnotherapy work, I had to shift and change it because I was taking people into deep trances, right? They'd go into a deep trance and then they'd have amnesia. So there wasn't a blending with the two minds at all. And so with this new style that I have come up with, they do their work with their eyes wide open because I don't want them to go into deep trance. But what I do want them to do is bridge between the God consciousness and their conscious mind. So something new is happening. So this other consciousness that I talk about, this God consciousness, is what was suppressed.
Right.
And people say, well, how do you know that? Well, when you were a baby, you knew things. When you were a baby and you were a young child, you knew things, just like I knew things. Everyone was kind of born awake.
Right.
You knew things, but then they were very quickly suppressed that. Do you ever wonder why?
Well, again, I think it's the false illusion of protection.
Yes.
That's what, and I do think it's also that your parents did that because of the tribal instinct, the idea that survival needed to be if you didn't fit in, you would perish.
Exactly. That's that herd-like mentality.
Right.
If you're not part of the herd, you're going to be kicked out of the herd.
Right.
So very ingenious manipulators of a system took a look at that and said, wow, we could really play with this and get humans to
do whatever
we want them to do. So here we have little gods and goddesses coming in right fresh from source with these ideas and how to change the vibration of the planet and wanting to do this. and they instantly start getting suppressed. And they get suppressed, and yes, it appears to be a loving thing. Everyone thinks it's a loving thing,
Right.
but it really isn't. Now, when people come back to that original consciousness, I've seen absolute miracles.
Yeah, it's amazing.
People turn things around really, really, really quickly.
So I have to stop you real quick and tell you
Okay.
that Noelle and Bob Marshall Warner on, and Don Lynch from Puerto Vallarta is on, and there's a bunch of people on. And Noelle said that, or Noelle or Bob, I don't know which one of it is. There are a couple, and you never know who's talking.
Okay.
Societal hypnosis. You can't have a slave planet and have people wake up. And they said, you need more than coffee to wake up, Kathy. So anyway, that's cool. Okay, so I have a question about it though. It seems like there's people waking up right now, at least in my world. I'm so lucky with the people I get to work with and
Yeah.
live in Boulder, Colorado, because there's so much amazing things happening where people are starting to, oh, hi, Zach. Um, People are starting to really wake up and create just beautiful things. But there's still this group of people that they're awake, but they can't play the game. Like it's like the starving artist syndrome, the starving conscious
Mhm.
being syndrome. And
Yeah.
what do you say about that? I mean, is that their subconscious trying to protect them, or what is that? Is that still control in the matrix?
That's playing. That's an identity problem. They're still playing with one foot in societal consciousness and one foot in the truth.
I see. Okay.
Okay, and you're not going to go anywhere. That's what that program, is built for, is so that you never, right? So it's a choice at that time. Who are you really? Who are you really? And accepting that part of you that is that God consciousness.
So, but how do you live from there? Is that you just find ways to support? I mean, you and I, before we got on, were talking about making a difference and helping people wake up to their divinity. I mean, how do you work in this paradigm out of this construct? Is it you just are brave, or do you find a group of community people that help you show up and reflect yourself back to you? Or because all of this is supposed to be a learning playground,
Yeah.
if that's what it was supposed to be, right?
Now, I have to say that most part, it's a soul journey. It's a single relationship between you and source.
I see. Okay.
Okay, on one level, because of the compromise that takes place in groups. So we all have to compromise and all have to. You see, my old teacher used to say to me years ago, Ramtha would say
Oh,
that 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 compromise is the death of humanity. If you can't stand in your sovereign power with source energy, now if you can have a group of people that was that way and could see each other and respected that, yes, I would agree. But otherwise, if you notice with groups, I mean, back in the day when I was working with anxiety and there would be anxiety clinics, it was like everyone would talk about how they got tripped today. Well, that wasn't anything that was healing, because
no,
everybody knew ways to be tripped up.
right.
But if it was ever, like I had mentioned to them back then, if you ever take ownership of the group and say, okay, look, anybody that talks about how they got tripped up is going to get kicked out. We're going to talk about how we transcended this.
Good.
Then you would have a good group, right? You see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, it's like, let's talk about our triggers and let's embed them more in our consciousness.
Yes.
No.
Because what you practice, you become better at.
I know it's horrible. Well, and your word is so powerful. Your thoughts things, and your words are very powerful. Can I it's Zach has a question here. Is it okay?
Okay.
Okay, well, it may not be a question. It may be it says, well, he's got a couple of things. He's got two things I missed. Okay, one is, Dwaine, I'm interested in how you would describe the essence, process, or key to how you facilitate an accelerated pathway to conscious growth. And then he put, I understand the state of distracted lives and mass hypnosis. The aha moment or getting it step is where I see people passing over the break-even point, aka 500 Hawkins scale, power forces, which that scale it's still labeled. All this is labels anyway, but it's some criteria to use. It says, enjoying the interview, all my best. So anyway, it's the question again is, I'm interested in how you would describe the essence, process, or key to how you facilitate an accelerated pathway to conscious growth.
Okay, this is shamanic in nature, in the sense that it has to be felt to be experienced.
Right.
Because we're talking about stepping out of the box and into a new paradigm. It has to be experienced, and then it turns into wisdom. But the experience is when we step back into that original consciousness, then there's a new identity. It's not a new identity, it's an ancient identity. It's
remembering, right?
And it's not, in my sessions, it's not about me teaching them. Even in my courses, it's not me teaching them as much as it is them tapping into this, and all of a sudden they start to remember. They start to feel free. The wisdom is already within us. It simply needs us to vote for going back into that state that we were suppressed out of. Does that make sense?
It does. I think he also he says, yes, the mind belt formed by interacting Merkabas can thwart a quiet mind. It's an inner journey and a very beautiful space to be. People who are absorbed by the many distractions don't stop long enough to check in with the authentic power and relationship with Source. Stuff we know, fun to participate.
So for instance, whenever we want to enter into something, I was listening just the other day to Abraham, and they were talking about the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So people want to go into the vortex. They're talking about going into the vortex. What do we do to get into the vortex? And how I would handle that is describe to me what it's like in the vortex.
Oh, feel it.
So describe to me what it's like to be in the vortex, Kathy.
I love this because I did the whole series of avatar classes, and I think it was the first or second day of the big class was all about what they called feel it's, because we are creating this hologram, our own private little movie, and we are so numb, and I think that's part of also the control mechanism, is if you numb them out because it's overstimulating, then they can't feel and create
Mm-hmm.
doing, right? So that when I go in, it's in the flow, it's a delight. I'm like a little kid, like, oh boy, what can I do next?
Okay, yes.
And there's this excitement and joy, and the fear, no fear, no
So if there's no fear, what is it?
love.
Love.
Right.
Love, and like a little kid.
Pure potential. See,
Yeah.
and that's where I open the Akashic records every day, and that's how I work my work from there.
And now, where are you?
Right now, talking.
Yeah.
I'm co-creating.
Are you in the vortex or outside looking at it?
Well, sometimes I'm in it, and then sometimes I'm the observer of me in it. So
Yes.
there's
Well,
like,
as you describe it to me, Kathy, the
uh-huh.
feeling.
Oh, okay.
Where are you?
I am in my heart. My heart's like bursting open, and
Are you in the vortex?
yes, yes,
So you see how you get in?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't sit back and say, I want to get in, show me a technique to get in. How do I get in here? No, you just elicit it
Right, right.
and you're in it.
But you
So,
can get out of a trigger. So a lot of times you'll be in and then you get triggered, which is a gift for you to see that. But there's ways to do breathing, getting centered, getting more, because it's all inside. So much of our construct, we think it's out there and it's all here. And that's why your work is so powerful, is you
oh,
bring them in. Yes.
it's all in, and it's
Yeah.
all, you were born with it, you came in with it. Your purpose for being here, your reason for being here, uh uh and a lot of the people that are drawn to me aren't from here, but they did come here to make a change
Yes.
on the planet,
That's
just
us.
like I did. So they're attracted to that part, and it's like I just help them awaken from that sleep, from that societal hypnosis. They come back to that magical inner child, right? So I do inner child work totally different. I was around at the time that Bradshaw came out with that, wounded inner child,
On Bradshaw.
and I studied the books, and I thought it was a really good thing. But then there were some things that I seen that I wanted to shift and change in it, so that there was a completion.
Right.
And so I did those things. So even though I say inner child work, it's like nothing people have accustomed to, but it works really well, and it's a really heart connection to that child within, a real loving relationship that.
Would you be so kind as to give some examples? I know you have great testimonials on your website. I mean, I've been following you for a long time. I haven't gotten to meet you in person yet, but I feel like I have. There's some great connection. But I love what you do. I've watched almost all of your YouTubes. I've followed you on Facebook. I love what you do because it's true. I find truth in it. But could you share with us some of the great, especially this inner child work, which everyone seems to be talking about, the childhood traumas from 1 to 7 and releasing them.
Yeah, yeah.
That seems to be a big theme that's going on right now. Could you share some of that?
Yes. So the way that I'm looking at it now, because as we go along in life, we grow and we understand more and more and more. The way that I see childhood trauma, that's part of the suppression to keep the magical little child down. So
Okay.
everybody's focused on the trauma within,
Uh-huh.
but they're missing the great point. The great point is back here, which is coming in as the child. So it's like with quicksand. The more you wiggle, the more you sink. If we take a look at this from the manifestation point of view, if we spend too much time, all our time, in trauma and trauma and trauma, our thoughts are around trauma,
Right.
our manifestation becomes trauma. We get caught in a loop, right? We get caught in this sinking loop. But we need to be able to understand what the trauma was about. If you take a look at MKA Ultra, the mind control
Yeah.
techniques. Okay, now what that is the first thing that they do is they traumatize the person, then they split them into two, and then they program. Now you take a look at what happened to us in early childhood.
Same
Some
thing.
sort of trauma, the splitting, and the programming of the societal consciousness. It's the same pattern.
Right.
We,
and it's so sad because it's done with good intention. That's what I keep saying to people. If there's a game in play and you really don't know the game, you just show up as the highest aspect of you because the game's being played from a different level, a different.
That's what I wrote the other day on somebody's thing.
But
It's a level of chess you don't even understand.
right. I always that Star Trek, they used to Captain Kirk and Spock used to play chess on this
Yes.
plexiglass chess thing and move from like 4 levels up and down. And that's what I think that's what's happening here. And I reach sometimes some of the other levels, but I still may not understand. I might have that perspective for a little while. But
just to add to that quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
Just add to that quickly. That whole game is only to keep you from stepping into that magical inner child. Okay. So when you step in, and I help you step into that magical inner child, boom, the whole game gets exposed.
Right. How do you get us to stay there though? That's it seems to be the at least in my experience, I go there, but then I'm up and down. My perspective, once you've had the perspective, you're always seeing from those eyes, but it's that 4D. I don't know that I live in 3D anymore, but 4D to 5D, bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
How do you?
And it's about the thing is that you can't just tell people to go there. You can't just that doesn't work. It never worked, ever. They need to have the wisdom. They need to have the experience of what it feels like to be in that state. And once they feel what it's like to be in that state, then their identity starts to change as to who they are. Once that identity changes, then now it's solid. Now it's solid. Yes, even myself, I can waver, but I have that solid knowing of who I am really, right? And I can go into that state and shift what's happening here, because again, it's all happening inside.
Right.
This is the greatest trick. Like, if there's so many conspiracy kind of things and theories and whatever going on, and they're really scaring the hell out of people.
Right.
Okay. But here's something for everyone to hear. Please listen to this.
Yes.
If all you're getting is fear porn with no solution, guess where that leaves you? It leaves you in a spiral. Stop listening to it, because it's part of the chess game, and they don't even know it. The thing is there's always a solution. And that solution, whatever your solution is just a matter of you focusing on what it would feel like to be in the solution, to be in the vortex, to be, what is that solution? Because the biggest thing that they did to all of us, Kathy, is they stole our imagination.
Right. That's the key to all of it.
And the imagination is the portal out. And they've made it even a dirty word, because we'll talk about imagine this or imagine, and they'll say, oh, that's just imagination. Well, imagination isn't this little thing. Imagination is the very thing that's going to take you emotionally from one state to another. And it is that emotion that's manifesting your reality.
Right. Yes. Perfect. So could you share though some changes that people have had where they were in? I'm sure you see just amazing transformations with what you're doing. I know you're amazing. Could you share some so that people here could get a feel for I mean, they can go to your website, which I have shown, and I will show it again. But I would love, I mean, because that way you don't have, telling a story lets them connect with how you could possibly help them.
Okay, so typically people come and they're sad, depressed, or they're stuck. They're so stuck. And with even the first session, I do a program of 4 because we need to make the shift and integrate it so that I see them a couple more times. But what happens is that they come the first time and they enter into this state with me, and they go into that place, and all of a sudden they feel a love for themselves that they have wanted to feel from everybody that they ever had a relationship with or whatever. Okay, so typically people with abandonment issues, and they will be in a relationships where they're really putting a lot of pressure on the partner, because of course they don't want to feel abandonment, so they're putting a lot of pressure. Can you imagine what it would feel like, and this happens all the time, is that they finally get that answer within themselves. They love themselves that much. See, that was the problem.
Right.
When they love themselves, all of a sudden that shifts. They don't put pressure on the person. They pick a different person from then on, right? Somebody who will actually co-create with them, right? Rather than, because a lot of times people will choose a relationship that mirrors their parental experience.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're trying to heal that.
Yeah.
So can you imagine, some people have been doing this for 30 years, trying to heal that. The relief that they feel when they love themselves, and that whole thing, the whole war stops. The whole thing just goes silent inside. Now, that's on relationship levels. But personal levels, like say people that are blocked, they've been blocked for years. And I take them through a technique of them I get them to work. I get them to work in my sessions. I'm not just like, I'm going to twinkle my fingers and you're going to change.
Although you could.
Yeah. But I get them to do the work so that they own the experience and they can do it again. And so say, for instance, blocks. People have been blocked for years. They can't get past this certain financial thing, or they can't get past this certain thing in their life, right? And I help them through that. And all of a sudden, in one session, they're free of it. Well, then once they're free of that, they go, well, what else can we do? I says, not even the sky is the limit. We can do whatever. I have seen a man who was quadriplegic.
Uh-huh.
Now, I can't say, because again, I don't do the healing. They do the healing. He was quadriplegic, and he hadn't lifted his arms any higher than the desk since he was like 4 years old or something.
Oh my gosh. And
he knew it when he came to see me, that if he seen me and we worked with this, that he could change this. He knew it. Again, remember, I know who I am. Right. I was just the facilitator in this, and that's it. It was all him. But so here he sits, and we go through the process. He enters into, because one of the things that I do is God consciousness activation. So he activates his God consciousness. He comes into this state, and now he has dominion over the being. Right. And so he changes what was going on in his spine. He could see the changes, and he administered the relief, and he could see it and feel it. Wow. And he looked at me with eyes like this, and he says, watch this. And I says, all right. And he lifts his hands up in the air. And I was crying. We're both crying sitting there because we just witnessed a miracle.
Right.
Right? Something that they told him he could never, ever do. And he went past it.
Wow.
And he did it. But it's about that ability to take ownership and say, I can do it. I can heal myself. I can change things. That's where the true power is. Not in I want somebody else to do it.
Right, right. Well, and that again is an illusion anyway, because we're really all one, and we're all facets and fractals of the one wanting to experience and grow. So that's fantastic. So I want you to know, Noelle and Bob wrote, they stole our imagination. They liked that line. He said, and they did a quote from Michael Bernard Beck, which says, "My imagination is spirit's vehicle, and it creates mightily through me and as me." My imagination. I think imagination and innocence are the key to all
They
of.
are. They are. They are.
Yep, yep. So
You see, it's that unbounded spirit. It's the freedom of that unbounded spirit that's found in the child. That childlike wonder is magic, pure magic. And so that is what transforms people. Now, you asked the question about wobbling. Once you experience that childlike wonder and that magic and all that, because everybody says this, I wish I could go back to a simpler time in my life. And that's where I started on, I keep hearing this, I keep hearing this, I keep hearing this. What is that? How can I enter into that? What is that? And that's what this is, the magical inner child. When we enter back into that, now, how could you forget that once you've had that experience again?
Right.
You know, now it becomes locked in. And so all the wandering that we do, or this or that or the other, nothing vibrationally equals what you've already felt and experienced with awakening the child within.
The reason why I asked about that was that I had a white light experience back almost 15 years ago, and I didn't quite understand it. I saw myself, this body, just being a teeny bit of who I really am, and but then I spent a lot of time trying to get answers. Right, I felt it and I knew it, so my perspective was all forever changed. But I actually find the wobble seems to be, it may be the fear versus love program that keeps happening, and it seems like they're pushing it really hard now. I mean, this 2 years, I would say not quite 2 years, but a year and a half, 2 years, it's been interesting. So that's why I asked about it, is that I feel that I still wobble, even though I feel I'm very lucky, the type of people I get to work with. And we're talking to conscious business owners, a lot of these people that are listening, and I'm sure they're in the same thing. They want to take a stand for something. They started a business to make a difference. They want to be coherent with their values and show up as love in every aspect. But there's a lot of stuff going on that you have to, it's like being in a canoe down a river, trying to stay in the canoe when there's all sorts of stuff around you. So that's why I was asking about how to get back to center, or what you do or that you offer that gives people support, because I think that's the piece that's missing.
I offer ongoing support with the freedom that you can take it as you want it,
Oh, okay.
as you need it. Because I'm not an enslaver. You know,
Right.
I don't,
Empower.
I'm into empowerment. So empowerment is all about when you feel you've graduated, go, right? Um, if you need help, I'm here, come back. But,
Yeah.
but the other thing is I teach them how to anchor themselves, to put an anchor for those that know NLP. An anchor is either a touch or a tone or something, a color they see. You can have any kind of anchor you want. So going back into your white light experience again, because all experiences live within us in emotional states.
Right.
And
Right.
so all we have to do is elicit the emotional state and we're back in the white light experience, and then have them anchor. That might be I'm putting my hand on my chest because that's an anchor,
Okay.
you know, and you go back into that and you put your hand. Now when you notice, because this is all part of the learning process, when you notice you're wobbling, you just put your hand here. And what's even nicer is if I have permission from the goddess within you to say hello,
Uh-huh. Sure.
hello,
Hello.
and she can activate that anchor whenever you wobble.
Hmm.
Wouldn't that be neat?
Yes. Yes. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. So we have lots of people watching. If anybody else has questions or anything for Dwaine, please feel free to share. We've got Sonia Day saying, "What a wow of a show!" So she's really enjoying it. I'm going to put Dwayne's website up again, and so I highly recommend that you check out this website and see. You'll get a hit if Dwaine is your teacher and your guide. The magic is quite palpable on the site, and if you listen to any of his YouTubes and free audios, you'll see his voice, the resonance of his voice is transformational in itself. So, and that there's lots of stuff. And then, how else should they get a hold of you, please?
Well, I'm on Facebook,
Uh
Dwaine Hartman on Facebook.
huh.
Um, what else? They can email me, Dwaine Hartman at
Okay.
hotmail.com.
Okay.
But the website is the best. I've got it all ready there so that they want to drop a message or ask a question, whatever. It's all there for them on the website.
So, Dwaine, I have one more question for you, and it's, how do you see the evolution happening right now? There's so much feeling from where I am that there's a lot more of us, that you can see that the internet has actually helped create. At first, it was you knew about atrocities, but now you know about love from everywhere. And
Mhm.
so I'm still optimistic for the future and seeing that we might actually make we might this to me, I think we're ascending embodied. This is one of the first times that we didn't have to leave the body to actually have higher consciousness. We could actually walk around like that, which I think is why there's, almost 8 billion people on the planet. So how do you see it? How do you see these? Are we going to make it to 5D and or fifth dimension, or to love? Or I don't know if you even use those words, but
Oh, yeah. We're already there. We just have to realize it.
aha, yeah,
Now, the thing with it is that we're coming into our own. We're coming into back to the God and Goddess within. This is the change that we need on the planet, is when we own, because the thing it is with all the external pulling they've captured our awareness.
Right.
And they put our awareness on this thing and that thing and that thing, and we get emotionally. We don't even realize we're co-creating the problem.
Right.
So the way out of this is to come into ourself and focus on that sovereign relationship with source energy, and know this is all going on basically just to add pressure to us, so we will do this. We pop back into our sovereign relationship with source energy. We realize we're manifesting our own plot. We're manifesting within our own reality. Within our own reality, that's not. We're manifesting everything in our own vicinity. Okay? So what happens when we take back our control to manifest everything in our vicinity, each one of us?
That we want.
Well, then...
rather than what we don't want.
And if you remember any time in your life where you had someone who was a bit annoying to you, and you finally put your focus over here and didn't give them any more energy, what happened to them?
They go away.
Now we know that we have a dark underbelly in our government. We have all of this stuff going on, blah, 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 blah. But if you turn and you manifest your own peaceful, loving reality,
right,
what happens to them?
Right.
The only way that they can be that force is if we give them our attention.
Right, right.
So we move our attention away and we start creating as the gods and goddesses that we were supposed to be all the way back in the time of Zeus.
Right.
We're supposed to evolve into that.
Great. That's great. Okay. So Zach put just a comment. In terms of imagination, I work with virtual reality, not gaming, and find that creating worlds from scratch is a good conscious raising exercise.
I agree.
There's no limitation to the experience. And there's and more.
It's accurate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Lisa Squires now says, "Praise God, real conversation." So you're helping a lot of people here realize and see a path to a wonderful, wonderful. This is a new way to up-level your playing field like you never have before. This is not just your physical body. This is your consciousness, which had a mission when it came here to be expressed, and may not ever get to express itself without someone like Dwaine helping you reveal it, stabilize it, and teach you how to use it. So I'm just so grateful, Dwaine, that you're on, and we're almost to the end of the show. Is there anything else that you want to share? I highly recommend his work, and I mean, you guys, you'll see if he's the teacher for you right away, because it's remarkable if you're like me.
I thank you so much for bringing me on to your show.
My pleasure.
Blessings to you.
Yes, yes.
And for everyone out there, we've all been suppressed. And we've all been suppressed in whatever ways that they chose to suppress, right from early childhood, right to even now. But there's a whole other life. And this whole other life is the very thing that is at the root of why they're suppressing. They don't want you to know you. They don't want you to know the real you and how powerful you are, because then the gig's up. That's what I want to introduce you to, is that beautiful being that you are,
right,
that they work so hard to have you not see.
And And once you do experience that, you will be forever changed.
Forever.
And our whole world will be forever changed.
That's right.
Game on. Well, thank you so much, Dwaine. Again, I'm going to put up your website. And I encourage all of you. Thank you for coming and experiencing this conversation. And please do yourself a giant favor and check out Dwaine Hartman. You'll be so glad you did. I've got chills just the whole conversation. Thank you so much. You're a magical being. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Blessings to you.
Yes, thank you. Bye everybody. Bye. Thank you. Please share. Please share if you're so inclined.